Nowadays I'm just coasting, trying to find myself, no longer worry about me, but my grandma's health. Waking up and every morning she be laying in bed, telling me she feel like shit if she ain't taking the meds. Like damn, maybe lately I've been way too stoned. My head is getting like the size of Jimmy Neutrons. All these people sleeping on me like a futon, when really all these other rappers. Hello.
Hello.
Oh my gosh. It's been way too long. Life has been very busy. Very good. All good things. But it's been a while. We've missed you guys. We hope that you have missed us. So we're making a priority to make sure we schedule a podcast episode for you guys.
Yeah, we've been really busy
Yeah.
doing so many things with sports, with projects, with the vacations. We've had a couple of vacations and we have one more coming up. So that's been keeping us a little busy.
Yes.
And it's like trying to fit in the things that we like doing has been hard. But
I
we
know.
had a talk a couple of days ago and making priority of the things we really enjoy doing.
Yeah.
And I've grown to enjoy doing podcasts with you.
I love it. Because the thing is like you're the one who says, hey, let's make our podcast or let's do a podcast episode. And it just excites me that you're excited about it.
It's almost like a therapy session with
Yes.
you, like because we talk about like, oh my gosh,
Yeah.
like we have these kind of talks every day, but now like sharing it with other people, and it gives me some therapy just talking about it. I
Yeah.
feel like
Agreed.
so. Yeah, we made time this week because of the rain and cancellations of practices. Then we were
Woo!
able to sit down and have a podcast time.
I'm secretly excited we have no practices, guys. It's dreadful. But now we get to do something that we really enjoy, and it's hopefully going to be something that is helpful for you and maybe give you some tools, some tips, or just some encouragement on what we're going to be talking about today, which is the topic of boundaries.
Yeah, that when we talked about the topic in a few weeks ago or a few days ago, this topic is very intriguing to me because it hits home.
Yeah.
It hits home because I didn't know boundaries were needed. I didn't know boundaries existed. Because one, our culture,
Hmm.
two, from being the oldest, and being the kind of person that I am.
Yes.
You know, people
Protector,
pleaser, protector,
a giver.
always helper, giver. So that sometimes if you're that kind of person, this could be a good podcast for you.
That's right. I think the majority of our listeners are or can relate in some way, shape, or form to one of those.
Yeah, exactly.
So I think it's a really great topic to talk about because, like you said, sometimes we don't know boundaries are needed or when to put them in place, or we feel guilty of putting boundaries in place because we're not really taught how to or that it's okay to put boundaries in place. A lot of the times, like you said, in our culture, it's something that we don't see, we don't witness our family or our parents put into practice. So then it becomes hard for us because it feels like we are being selfish or we are being mean, and it's not. Boundaries are
Yeah.
not meant to push people out. They're meant to build that relationship that gives you the opportunity to give the best of you to people.
Yeah, and I think what you said, or just said, our parents didn't teach us. I think it comes from a very young age.
Hmm.
If your parents are living in an environment of survival, they're always looking for you for help.
Yeah.
Especially if you're the oldest or your children. You have to take care of yourself and make sure you help mom and dad around the house. Make sure everything's done, and you can't say no.
Right.
No, you can't say, "Well, I don't want to." Like, no, you have to do it because mom and dad are busy. Mom and dad are in survival mode, so you need to do it.
Hmm.
So at the young age, you have to make sure that you're always on top of things, always doing the things that your parents teach you,
Yeah.
tell you to do. So it's like a act that is taught at this early age of, well, I have to do it because mom and dad are busy. I guess I have to do it.
Yeah.
And then as you get older, you start your own life. You start your life with your family.
Hmm.
Then that cycle continues of like, well, my mom and dad are needing my help, or my family needs my help, and it continues that cycle. Like I have to do it.
Right.
But at some point, there has to be a way of like, well, no, I don't have to do it.
Yeah.
I don't have to help them or or
Say yes to
say yes
everything.
to everything
Yeah.
that they ask of me.
Yeah.
So that's something that I've learned to do throughout time.
Yeah.
As I I got older.
Absolutely. And I think a lot of the times too, what happens is in our culture or in our families, we get guilt tripped when we say no or when we don't want to do something, and it makes us feel like we're bad people. It's like how what do you mean you can't help so and so, or you have this so you should do it, or you have the money, or you have the time, or you have you're capable of it. And it's like, yes, I do have the time or the money or the energy or the knowledge, whatever it may be, but why does it become a burden or like a responsibility on me when I didn't, like I didn't cause that, or maybe I didn't put myself in that situation or
Yeah,
whatever. And so I think it's hard because our families kind of guilt trip us when we say no, or
yeah,
make us feel like we are doing something wrong when we choose ourselves. And
yeah,
they don't see it as this is a priority because it protects my mental health. It protects me from being able to resent you or be angry or come to the rescue and never allow you to actually solve your problem or figure it out on your own, just like I've had to do it or you've had
yeah.
to do it.
And how many times has anyone, done something for someone, even if you didn't have the time, or you didn't have the money, or you didn't have the mental capability to do it, and you put those things away.
Yeah.
You cancel other things. You take money from your savings. You take money that you worked hard for your savings, and just to help that person out, even
Right.
if you didn't want to, even if it put you below where you needed to be,
Mm-hmm.
you took that risk, that sacrifice to help that other person. Which, if you can, go for it.
Yeah.
But when it becomes a continuous pattern of I have to help them again, and I have to help them again, or I have to put away my needs,
Mm-hmm.
my family, to make sure that person's okay.
Yeah.
And I think once you put your family on one side, you have to put them aside to go help that person. You have to really evaluate, like, no, I have my own family now,
Yeah.
and I have to make sure that they're taken care of first
Mm-hmm.
before I go help anyone else.
Yeah. No, absolutely. And that's a hard thing to break in our culture.
That
I've
is a very
witnessed
hard
it or
thing.
I've seen it or I've experienced it myself to the it's detrimental. It's detrimental
Yeah.
to your mental health, to your relationship if you allow it to get to that extent. It,
Hmm.
it does cause some friction within
Yeah.
you because now you're in this, I think it puts you in like this wall of, do I do it because I know I should or I feel like I should, or do I do it or do I not do it because this is something that they need to learn or that they need to know that if I don't follow through and commit to what I'm saying I'm doing, then how can they do that? Right?
Yeah.
So it's like we break our own promises or we break our own word
Yeah.
because we let the guilt or we let the feeling that stirring in us take over, and then we just do what we normally do without realizing how it's not helping, but it's just enabling that behavior continuously.
Yeah. And it's crazy you say that, because the culture difference when you live in, back in our home country,
Yeah.
and when you live here in the United States. And back in our home country, families stayed together longer.
Yeah.
They stayed together 30s, 40s. Sometimes they lived together their whole lives
Right.
in their same household. And that's normal over there.
Right.
Here, if you're 40 and you live with mom and dad, you're like, what the heck?
Even if you're 30,
I mean,
like
yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like,
what?
if you're 30, you're like 30. The people in Mexico, they grow in the same place. Like, if you
Mhm.
own a home, if your parents own a home, you just built in the backyard. You just
Yeah.
built on top of them.
Yeah.
And they stay together, and that's a normal thing to do. And they help each other out because of the financial stability there that they have. If they stay together, they grow stronger.
Yeah.
If they split apart and move away, they have to start over, and it becomes a lot harder. So it's the norm for people to just have no boundaries, to be like, hey, you live here, you have to put your part,
Yeah.
and there's no saying no.
Yeah.
And that's the normal thing to do. But here in the United States, we have so much more capability to move, to buy a
Mhm.
home, to
Mhm.
buy a car, to go to school, that it's easier for a 19-year-old to just move away,
Yeah.
to go to college, and start setting boundaries. Like, yes, I'm making my own life,
Yeah.
and I'm gonna decide on my own what I want in life. But in Mexico or in other third world countries, it's a lot harder to do that.
Mhm.
And if you're living here and you're Latino and you're going through that, it becomes harder for you to set those boundaries with family or friends, or even at work. I
Yeah.
mean, that
Yeah.
this escalated, into work in my
Mhm.
workplace,
Mhm.
because I was a people pleaser at work, and I I sometimes did work that wasn't even my work just
Yeah.
because I wanted to make sure that that person wasn't mad at me.
Yeah.
So that became a problem there,
Right, right.
you
Because
know.
it does bleed into your personal life, I mean, from your personal life into your business, into your career, because we've been instilled, or it's been instilled in us to choose other people and abandon ourselves at any, situation.
Yeah,
And it's hard for people to say no because they feel, like you said, they don't want that person to be mad at them. They don't want that person to talk bad about them. They don't want to get in trouble, or just having those fears that are instilled in a lot of people, because they want to avoid feeling any kind of discomfort when it comes to it. And it's hard to put them into place because you do create a story in your head,
yeah,
or there's words that maybe people have said about somebody else that now you're like, oh my gosh, if they think that about them, then that makes me that person too.
yeah,
So you create this story and this belief of, I'm being, selfish, or I'm being, I could do it, so I should do it. Or like you have a fear that maybe the client won't come back. So you say yes,
yeah,
or you're going to get written up, or, things that, again, fear based. You do things because you're not able to realize that you're allowed to have boundaries, and that when you say no, or you do something, it's for your own well being.
yeah. And at work, I mean, I've said yes to so many projects, to so many jobs that I didn't really want to do, that I didn't have to do. It
Yeah.
wasn't part of my job description. And at times I would just do it just because I wanted to be able to fit in.
Yeah.
I wanted to make sure that that person didn't hate me or didn't think I was lazy,
Mm,
because I wasn't being lazy. It was
yeah.
just not part of my job.
Yeah.
Like, that's not my position to do, but either they were shorthanded or someone else didn't want to do it, or they knew that I would do it because I was a people pleaser.
Yeah.
So they would be like, Vic would do it.
Mhm.
Vic would do it, you
Yeah.
know? And that became a problem until you have to finally set boundaries to be like, don't come with me with work that someone else doesn't want to do,
Yes.
because you know that I will do it because I'm a hard worker and I'm nice,
Yes.
So if you don't put those boundaries on in place, they're going to keep using you. So I mean, you
Yeah.
had an incident like that too at your in an old job that you had
Yeah.
until you finally put a stop to it.
Yeah. And that's kind of where I was going to, is like it made me think of that job that I had. I loved my job. I loved what I did. The people I worked with, it was a great job that I really was really happy in. But like you said, I always said yes to everything. Yes, yes, I'll do it. And a lot of it was because I was bilingual, right? That was one thing also that my mom always instilled in me. Like, because you speak two languages, you are going to have a bigger advantage, or people are going to see you differently, because they're going to know that you have the skill of being bilingual. And so I took that as like, oh, okay, so this is going to make me worthy, this is going to make me enough, this is going to make me feel like, the big wigs or the people that are important see me or think I'm smart. And I did that for years. People would hire me and, oh, you're bilingual? Yes. Okay. So now they would use me as a person to translate for everyone and everything. And so this job, that's exactly what happened, is like I was doing my job, which I loved, but then I was also translating, and I was doing a lot of work outside of, like you said, my role, my responsibilities, until I realized, like, wait a second, you guys are paying somebody else a lot more money than you're paying me just to do that specific job.
when
Why am
when
I
they were
not?
hire a translator to translate.
Exactly.
Yeah,
So, and they were paying this person a lot more money. And I realized, like, there's no way that I'm going to keep doing this. So I decided to speak up. And I was like, okay, so if I'm going to keep doing this, then I need to get compensated for it. Then I need to have some kind of raise, or, negotiate something. And that was a big uproar. Like that was like, how dare you, basically? How dare
yeah,
you ask us for that? How dare
right,
you even speak or want more of that?
right,
And it made me feel like, at that point I had reached, it was like, I'm worthy of that. I'm worthy of having you pay me for that, because of the work that I do, because of who I am, because I've proven that I'm, capable of doing this.
right.
And so you obviously need what I'm doing. You need my skills. And it really made me open up my eyes and see how much we put ourselves in situations because we want people to see our worth, because we want
Yeah.
people to like us, or we want to feel like, yes, I'm finally making it out in the big world, in the corporate world,
Yeah.
realizing that we're burning ourselves out. We're giving so much, and when you ask for a raise, when you ask to be compensated, when you reach that point of like, you know what, no, I deserve to have a little bit more,
Yeah.
they don't want to, and then you
Yeah.
realize like, so all of this time, all these years that I've been giving and doing and being for you outside of my work hours, and in the middle of my work,
Yeah.
yet you don't see it as something that I'm worthy of being paid for.
Yeah. It's like people don't realize that translating is just like, oh, come on, you know the language, come
Yeah.
on. But if I'm hired to make bread and I'm making my bread, but you pull me away to go translate every
Hmm.
10 minutes, I'm not going to be able to make my bread like how
Yeah.
I want to. I'm not going to make the best bread that you've ever tasted because I'm distracted by having to go do another job that I wasn't hired to do.
Yeah.
And we're not saying we don't like to help and translate
Of
people. For
course.
sure, we would translate as much as we can. But when it affects the job that you're hiring me to do, I'm like, okay, that's enough. Okay, if you pay me what I'm worth because you
Yes.
obviously need me,
Yes.
okay, so why don't you do that? And when you told me the whole situation there, I didn't really know boundaries or didn't really understand boundaries until like you explained it. But like, well, yeah, you're right. You're being pulled away from your job, and you're not even, and you were stressed about that job because
Hmm.
you weren't getting things done,
Yeah.
and you were going to go help these people because they needed to translate.
Yeah.
But when you're not there, they hire someone and pay them a lot of money
Hmm.
to do it.
Hmm.
But now they want to save some pennies
Yeah.
to make sure just you do it.
Yeah.
You do it for free.
Yep.
Why pay her when Jessica does it for free?
Hmm.
And it's pulling you away from your job. So like that's enough.
Yeah.
So once you realize your worth, then you're gonna put the boundary up to make sure that that's not crossed again.
Exactly. Yeah.
So
And it's like they look at you like you have the audacity to ask for this,
right,
and then realize like, well, yeah, I do actually.
yeah,
Because obviously somebody else is seeing their worth and they're asking for what they would charge, and you're paying them clearly. So it's not like you don't have it in the budget or you don't have the money
yeah,
for it. You just don't, like you said, you want to save a few pennies,
yeah,
and you realize that because I say yes, because I've been doing it for years, or because I'm a good person, that I will do it.
right.
But it's knowing your worth and speaking up for what you're worth.
It's like we talked about earlier, the power of no.
Hmm.
That's very difficult for me sometimes, and it was more difficult years ago. But now I'm starting to understand how to say no.
You've gotten much better.
Yeah, like I was single for most of my 20s and understanding that I was alone most of the time. So I would say yes to everything.
Hmm.
Oh, you want to go here? Yeah, let's go. Hey, you want to do this? Yeah, let's go. Hey, you want to pay for this? Yeah, I'll pay for it. So it was like you said, I wanted people to see my worth. Like,
Yeah.
oh, see, I'm a good friend. See, I'm fun.
Hmm.
See, I'm this. And once you realize, I'm like, these people, they're my friends, but I don't have to show them my worth. They should
Hmm.
already know if they're my friends.
Yeah. I don't have to buy them.
I don't have to buy them
Yeah.
by me saying yes to everything that
Yeah.
they want or they need me for.
Yeah.
So if I say no, they should understand like, oh, he can't go or he can't pay for it, he can't do this. So it's to stop trying to make people see your worth.
Yeah.
If they don't see it already, don't try to please them,
Yeah.
you know?
And it shows you who's truly, in your corner, or who truly values you for you, and is not just there to smooch off of you, or to just kind of take advantage in some way, or maybe unconscious, subconsciously they don't even realize it, or they don't see it
Yeah,
at that
right.
point, but it's like when you start saying no and you start setting boundaries, you start seeing, who really wants to value, who really wants to be around you, and who values you and respects that you are saying no, or that
Yeah,
you are putting a boundary in place because you love and care about that person, or because you like your job. That's why it's so important to set boundaries.
yeah,
And once you start placing them, you come from a different perspective, you come from a different place, and people will be able to see where you're coming from, because you want them in your life. You show
Yeah.
them this is
Mhm.
important for me, because if not, I'm going to build the resentment. I'm going to build up anger. I'm going to get burnt out and stressed out, and I'm not going to be able to give you the best of me.
Yeah.
So realizing like those boundaries and those saying no is not because you're a bad person. It's because I want to give you the best of me.
Yeah. Yeah. I used to think of people that had boundaries, back then. I'd be like, man, they're a-holes.
Yeah.
Man, they're stuck up. Man, this. But now it's more and the older that I get is like, you got to respect my boundary, man. I'm not going to go and say yes to everything that you ask
Yeah.
me for. And I hope they understand that. I hope
Right.
people understand that. And I hope people, um, I know that in our culture is difficult because we live in a different way, but I think there should be some boundaries there so you can grow.
Yeah.
You can grow as yourself, because if you're putting everybody else first, then your dreams are never going to be accomplished.
Yeah.
You have dreams to do some things, go to college, go, be a carpenter, whatever it is that you want.
Mhm.
If other people are taking your time because you're saying yes to them all the
Mhm.
time, they're they're taking your time from the time that you can spend reaching your dream.
Yeah.
And if you just say yes and yes and yes to everything, you're never going to get there.
Yeah.
And it's going to just take you away from that.
There's a saying that says every time you say yes to someone else, you're saying no to yourself.
Yeah.
And that is so true.
Right.
Every time that I've said yes, even if I didn't want to, I would always say it was me telling myself no to either family time, being with you, working
Yeah.
on something that I actually loved, working out, whatever it may be. Like, because I let the yes to everyone else take over, it was a no to doing the things that I actually valued, the things that I actually enjoyed, the things that were important to me. But because I didn't want to let them down, I
Yeah.
would say yes. But I would
Yeah.
say no every time to myself. Oh, I
Yeah.
know I have this thing that I want to go to, or this thing that I want to do, but I'm just going to say no to that so I can say yes to them.
Yeah.
And we
Mm.
abandon ourselves in so many aspects when it comes to like we won't let anybody else down, but every time we say yes to everything else, you're saying no to something for yourself that you
Yeah.
value, that you actually like, that you want to do, or that just matters to you,
Right.
whether it be people, a hobby, an activity, just something that you prioritize. You're saying no to yourself.
No, for sure. For sure. And you have to think about what that yes consists of. Does it
Yeah.
take your time? Does it take your money? Does it take your mental health? And you have to know where your boundary is.
Yeah.
And like you said, it takes away from you, takes
Hmm.
away from what you are trying to accomplish. And if you continue to say yes to those things, then that dream will never come.
Yeah. And we have to learn also that when boundaries are put in place, to stop taking it so personal.
Yeah, yeah,
We
for
take it
sure.
so personal.
That's for sure.
And it's like, why do we have to take it personal? This is not something against you. This is for
Right,
me, because that way I don't have to feel like, again, go back to the resentment, going back to, I have to do these things. But people take it so personal. And it's like,
right,
no, because I care about you, because I care about our friendship, because I
right.
want to do my job well, because I want my business to thrive, I want to give you the best of me,
Yeah.
then I need to say no.
And I think that people need to understand what we're talking about. Like, yes, you can do people favors. That's for
Yeah,
sure. If they
absolutely.
need help, and you have the time, mental capability, the financial capability to help those people, and you want to do it, it's not going to take anything from you.
Yeah.
Then go help them. But if something that you can't do, that you're going to be like, man, if I say yes to this, it's going to take time from here.
Yeah.
It's going to take money from here that I've been really working for to buy a car,
Mhm.
to pay my rent.
Yeah.
You know, if those things come into place, they have the power to say no.
Yes.
Not just like, you know what, I'll figure it out later.
Right.
you know,
Right.
I'll figure
Right.
it out later. Just make sure that I'm helping 'em.
Yeah.
If it's an emergency, like this is a big
Right.
emergency, like, okay, cool, we'll figure it out later. Yes, you're in the hospital, something big happened.
Your car
Yes.
broke down and you
Yeah, like,
need,
okay, cool, I'll be
you need
there.
money for your groceries, like,
Yeah, something like that.
totally
Cool. Like, we're not
understandable.
saying the boundary needs to be like, nope,
Yep.
you're gonna die tomorrow. Okay,
Right.
cool.
Right.
We're
Right.
saying things where like, well, is this really necessary right now at this moment?
Yeah.
And is me giving that up? to that person,
Yes.
am I going to be okay?
Yeah.
You know?
For an example too, like as another example, I had a client who has a business, and she was telling me like, Jessica, I need to set boundaries with my hours. She's like, I'm
Hmm.
open from this time to this
Yeah,
time, but
exactly.
anytime that someone texts me or messages me, I'm quick to respond. I'm quick to tell them yes. And it interferes with my dinner time. It interferes
Oh
with my
no,
kids' time. It interferes
that's
with,
not.
and my
Yeah,
husband tells me like, we already had this scheduled, but because you're going to say yes to this client, now it's kind of disrupted a whole,
yeah.
plan or schedule. And then these are the things we're talking about, like
Hmm.
setting those boundaries with people when it disrupts your personal time
Oh
or
yeah,
when it disrupts what you've already had planned. And it comes from I've done it before. I've done this where I've said yes to everything and everyone, and I've interrupted our time or,
yeah.
you know, have left something that's important to me because it comes from a place of scarcity. We feel like if we don't service or if we don't provide a yes to that client, they're going to leave. Oh my
They
gosh, we're
won't
going to
come back.
lose a client. We're going to
Yeah,
lose that money. So it comes from a scarcity mindset, which I understand because I've been there
yeah.
before. But is it really worth the time? Right?
Right.
If you can't set a boundary with your clients and letting them know these are the times that I'm available, here's what I can provide. Okay, if those don't work, I also, do once a month on Saturdays. These are the times that I have.
Yeah,
So trying to work with their schedule. And if it doesn't work out, there's nothing wrong with you saying, you know what, let me refer you to someone who does have the availability, someone who can do that. Because God is going to bless you in
yeah, for
abundance
sure.
and is going to attract the clients that need your time, your schedule, and you can accommodate to what they need and what you need as well. So these are the things that we're talking about when it comes to saying no
Right,
or setting a boundary with yourself. It comes
right.
down to setting a boundary with yourself.
And that's a great example. Like you said, the scarcity mindset, and they feel like if I don't say yes to this client, they're
Yeah.
gonna go find someone else.
Hmm.
They're coming to you for a reason.
Yeah.
They like your job. They
Yeah.
like the work you do.
Yeah.
So they're coming back. They're willing to come after hours. But also you have allowed them to cross that boundary so
Yes.
much that they're like, I'll just text her. She'll do it. She'll be on my schedule,
Yes.
kind of thing.
Yes.
Like, no, they have to look at your schedule on your business page or business card. I'm open from this time to this time.
Yes.
And that person should know, like, I can't mess with that time.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's the time that she's open. It's like you don't go to the post office and knock on the door and be
Exactly.
like, hey, can you be open real quick? I got to deliver a letter. It's like,
Hmm.
no, it's closed.
Yep.
The same way with any other business, any small business that you're at, you should treat it that way too, because they
Absolutely.
have a family to go to.
And that's what I told her. I
Yeah.
said, you don't go, like you said, you don't go to the store and on the doors they're open from 9 to 5. You
Yeah.
show up at 5:01. I'm 90% sure they will say no because
No,
they're closed,
you're
right?
close. Yeah.
Like, and that's what I told them as well. Like, this is your business. Treat it as that.
Yeah,
Treat it
for
as a
sure.
business. Treat it as something that you're filled with abundance. And if you're, like you said, your clients are coming to you because of you, what
Yeah,
you provide, the
for
value you
sure.
provide, the work that you do, because they appreciate and value you,
Hmm.
they're going to keep coming back or they're going to find a way.
And if you start setting that boundary, they'll come during business hours.
Exactly.
Be like,
Exactly.
make sure you're here during the business hours.
Yeah.
Or if you want to schedule something ahead of time in two
Yes.
weeks,
Yes.
like, hey, I'm at work from 9 to 5. I know you close at 5. In 2 weeks, would you be able to fit me in at 5 right as soon as I get off work?
Yeah.
Let them know so they can shuffle that schedule if they're willing to.
Exactly.
You know, like, yep, my kids don't have practices this day. My husband's at home.
Yeah.
She can help me out with that for an hour, and
Yep.
he'll know ahead of time. Yes, I can
Yes.
schedule, not last minute. Hey, can you fit me in?
Yes.
You know?
And I think a lot of the times what happens too is we build this story in our mind. That person's going to be mad at us. We're going to lose that client.
Yeah,
They won't come back to me, right?
yeah.
And again, it goes back to
They'll
that
talk crap
scarcity.
about
Yeah.
me. They'll tell someone that I didn't do the favor,
Yeah.
and that's the worst thing we can think about. Let them talk,
Yeah.
and when the story comes back to you, it's like I was close.
Yeah.
What do you want me to do?
Yeah.
My business is closed.
Yeah. Or you minimize too, like, well, I could do it because I do
Yeah,
have that 1 hour,
yeah,
or I could do it because X, Y, and Z. And you try to like convince yourself that, well, I could, I mean, technically. And it's like, maybe you technically can,
yeah.
but you do it once, you do it 5 times, you do it 10 times. And then at one point, you're going to be like, oh my gosh, I can't keep doing this.
Right.
This is where burnout happens, is
Yeah,
when
for
we
sure.
repeatedly do the same thing that's not working. right? If you want to, like you said, you want to accommodate once in a while here and there, works with your schedule and their schedule, go for it.
Yeah.
But if you do this continuously, you're going to burn out. You're going to be
Yeah.
like, am on E. I have no fuel left for my family, for my business. I'm just running low.
Yeah. Because like your person said that they
My
were
client.
your client was saying how this person contact them after hours, but now that person's going to tell five other people like,
Mhm.
just text her like at 7, she'll get you.
Yeah.
So now she has seven other people contacted her after hours saying like, hey, could you get me in? Now in her mind's like, oh my god, now I gotta do seven more people,
Yeah.
honey, I can't. I'm like, wait, why do we even have business hours when you're
Yes.
not even going to respect it?
Yes.
Now all these people want to come after hours and take your time from me.
Yeah.
And like you
Yep.
said, oh, you'll get burned out. Then you'll have problems at home.
Hmm.
Your husband's gonna be like, you know what? The kids are gonna be like, well, mommy's never here,
Yeah.
and then it's just a cycle of
Again.
downpours. You know, like,
Yeah.
oh my gosh, I thought I was doing good. I thought I was doing making money,
Yeah.
but then at home things are not good.
Right. And money isn't always the best like it's not always the answer, right? Yes, we all need it, but your mental health, your presence in your family is so much more important and knowing that you have to grow in your faith. You
Yeah,
have to grow in the faith in your vision of what you're doing that if that client doesn't like you telling them no or setting that boundary, then they're not your client and believing that God is sending people your way that want you for you, that the job that you're at keeps burning you out and they're getting mad at you or they're piling more work on you and they're not respecting when you tell them no you can't or no you don't have the time, then that just shows you that you have somewhere else to go,
yeah,
that you need to as they as hard as it is, it's time for change. It's time for
yeah,
you to take your stuff and pack and go somewhere else,
right,
even if they pay you a little bit less or maybe if they pay you more, who knows, but somewhere you're going to be happy, somewhere
yeah,
where you're going to be respected, where you're going to be valued as a human being, not just as an employee but as a human being.
yeah. Like you said, they're gonna respect your hours.
Yeah.
God's gonna give you those 10 clients that
Yeah.
are faithful, respectful, and know your boundary.
Yes.
And you rather do 110% good job with
Yeah.
those 10 clients that only give 80% with 15 clients.
Yes.
And those other five are not respecting your boundaries.
Mhm.
They're always coming late, missing appointments, or asking to reschedule appointments at times that you're not open.
Yeah.
And those clients are gonna go away and find somewhere else.
Yeah.
But then God will give you one more faithful client that will
Exactly.
respect your boundaries,
Yeah.
be on time, not cancel your appointments.
Yep.
And we have to stop being scared of that
Yeah.
and start having the power to say no.
Yes.
I can't.
And believing and having faith. You have to
Yes.
have faith that God will provide. That even though one person, two people said, they're not coming back to you or they bad named you or whatever, just know that if you're doing the right thing, you're coming from a good place and you're putting boundaries in place. People are not they don't like
Yeah.
that. That's why I said don't take things personal. When people set boundaries, stop taking things personal. But it's something that's necessary. It's something that
Yeah.
we really need to practice and put into place and have those conversations.
Yeah.
That's another big thing. Like when we set boundaries, like people don't have those conversations of
Yeah.
here's why,
Right.
or here's what I need from you, or here's what I can give you.
Right.
And it's hard to have those conversations because again, it goes back to pleasing people or making ourselves feel bad or just giving ourselves that story of, well, I mean, I could, or I should, I should, or, and
Yeah.
it's no, we don't always have to say yes. We don't always have to be liked. We don't always have to make people happy. As adults,
Right.
we are each responsible for our own emotions, but we take that burden on from other people because it's so
Yeah.
uncomfortable to have someone mad at you.
Right? Like as adults, like it's funny, like when you say it and you hear it out loud. Like if someone, a friend of mine, is mad at me, I guess, okay, be mad.
Yeah.
Be mad at me because I said no to you. If you still want to continue to be my friend tomorrow, yes, let's do it.
Yeah.
But if you don't want to be my friend tomorrow, okay,
Yeah.
it's gonna be okay. You know why? Because my family is in good health, and I didn't think I did anything wrong to you.
Yes.
You're just trying to cross the boundary that I'm setting here,
Yeah.
but you don't like it. That is your problem,
Yes.
you
Yes,
know?
it is.
And if you don't want to be my friend for it, that's fine.
Yeah.
And if you just want to be upset, well, I'm upset that you didn't do this for me. Okay, I'm sorry that I couldn't do it for you.
Yeah.
And if you're my friend, we'll get over it and be friends tomorrow.
Let's talk about
Let's
it
talk
and
about it. If
move
you want to
forward.
continue about it, this is my reason why I can't do it.
Yeah.
If you can't understand that, then I'm sorry.
Yeah.
And sometimes adults are not capable of having those conversations.
No.
And after you have them, they stay with that grudge.
Mhm.
They stay with that grudge,
Mhm.
and it's hard to find real people nowadays.
Yeah.
Real people that are actually emotional, intelligent to have those type of conversations.
Yeah.
Move on from them and learn from them,
Yes.
because nobody in this world knows everything.
No.
We all make mistakes, and if I did you wrong, like, okay, let's move on with it.
Mhm.
Move on with it. Why sit here and grudge about it?
I used to be that way. I used to hold grudges. I used
I
to
remember.
take things personal. I used to do that, and I held in my anger, or I exploded when I was angry, or I took things very personal. It was hard for me to be able to take in hard conversations, but it was because I didn't have the skills, I didn't have the knowledge, I didn't have just the confidence in who I was. I didn't have that in me. And so it was something that I needed to work on. It was something that I needed to figure out. And knowing that that person maybe isn't coming from a bad place and that's what they needed from me, or they set that boundary for a reason. But it took work on my end to be able to
Yeah,
learn how to let go of grudges and how to stop taking things so personal
yeah,
and let people, if that's what they needed. And even if I didn't agree with it, then, I decided what I wanted to do. Do I keep them in my life? Do I not? Do we have these conversations? Like, I just had to build that confidence within myself too. And I remember when we first had Japheth, like that's when I first started setting boundaries. I remember there were certain things that how I am with my kids, like very picky. You and I are both very picky with our kids, but there were certain things that I didn't like. There were certain things that I wasn't okay with people in our family or friends, or doing certain things or saying certain things. Like I don't allow the kids to watch certain movies, or I don't allow them to eat certain things. But I had to set those boundaries with our families, with friends, or be okay with looking crazy in front of people that I didn't, my kids don't do
yeah,
that, or my kids don't have that, or my kids don't eat that. And not
yeah,
because soy una presumida or I was being too much. It was just like, that's how I want to raise my kids. And
yeah,
if you don't like it, you're going to respect it. You don't have to like it,
yeah.
but this is how I'm choosing to raise my kids. This is what
Right,
I want for them. And I
right,
know people looked at me crazy, like, wow, you're a little too much. But that's okay. I'm okay with
right,
that. This is the way that I want to parent. This is the way that I want to raise my kids, and respect it. You don't have to like it, but you will respect it.
right. No, yeah. I think when we had our first son is when I started setting more boundaries,
Yeah.
because I knew that we were a family now.
Yeah.
Like it was me and you and our son against the world.
Yeah.
Not necessarily against the world in a bad way. Like
No, no,
we
no.
we were gonna raise our family how we wanted to raise it.
Yeah.
Take a little bit of input from how I was raised, take a little bit of input from how you were raised, kind of mesh that together.
Mhm.
And when other people get involved and say things about how to raise kids and stuff
Yeah.
like that, and I'm sure that I've crossed boundaries also in telling people things, but I think I've been pretty good at listening to people when they say like, "Well, I don't like it." I'm like, "Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
whatever." Like, sorry, like, sorry I said anything,
Yeah.
and I hope they don't take it personal if I say something when I cross somebody's boundary, because
Yeah.
you don't know someone's boundary until you come across them.
Right.
So sometimes you might say something or you might ask something that people would be like, "There's my boundary right there, man.
Yeah.
Cut it out."
Yeah.
Oh, yep, I'm sorry about that,
Yeah.
and move on.
Yeah.
Don't take it personal, like, "Oh my god, that guy's an a-hole."
Yeah.
Like, "Oh my god, that person is mean." Like, that's their boundary, man. Like, cool, and respect it.
And also know how to communicate it.
Right,
Right, that
no.
like you just said, people have a hard time sometimes with having those conversations, and they, instead of like turning it into a moment of a learning experience, or
Mhm,
a moment of like, hey, here's what I need to tell you, or here's what I need you to know,
mhm.
people turn it as, an like you said, an a-hole like situation. They don't know how to sometimes express themselves
Yeah,
besides being angry, or besides turning it into an argument rather than a
right,
conversation
right,
sometimes. So that's
yeah,
when things also, we can miscommunicate, we misunderstand each other. because we don't know how to communicate until
Right.
we practice it,
No,
until we
yeah.
put it into place, until we open up about it and we have those conversations. Hey,
Right.
here's where I'm coming from. Here's what I felt when you did X, Y, and Z, but here's what I would like from you, or here's what I need, or, and just having those conversations. But a lot of times it's like pointing fingers.
Yeah.
You, like,
Yeah. Sometimes, and I'm not sure. Sometimes, like, let's say I did you a favor a couple days ago,
yeah,
and then I come back and ask you for a favor, and you say no. And if you bring that, well, 2 days ago I did you a favor.
yeah,
Why don't you say yes to me?
yeah.
That is the worst thing you could do.
Oh my
Like,
gosh.
oh wow, guilt trip me into
Yeah,
doing what you want me to do,
yeah.
and that's the most wrong thing you could do.
Mhm.
Like you said, then you become synonymous. Like, well, I can. It's like, well, I'm never doing you another favor. I don't know.
Yeah,
Okay, I'm sorry that I can't do it for you now, and I'm thankful for the favor you did for me a few weeks ago, but right now I can't.
yeah,
And some people need to understand that.
yeah,
And like you said, learning how to communicate
yeah.
your boundaries and learning how to communicate why you have those boundaries is key.
It is. And put them into practice. Like
Right.
when you feel uncomfortable, that is when you set the boundary and you keep the boundary. Like
Yeah.
when it feels hard to do it, that's when
Right.
you have to say, no, I committed to saying this, or I
Yeah.
committed to doing this. As uncomfortable
And
as it feels, I have to do it.
and it's hard.
It is
It's
hard.
hard.
It is hard.
You know, it's hard until you practice them enough
Hmm.
and people see that boundary. No one will ever mess with that
Yeah.
boundary ever again. Like, oh, can't ask big for that.
Yeah. Hmm.
You know, but if you're picking favorites, like, oh, I set that boundary for those people, but those people, they can cross it.
Yeah.
People are going to be like, well, what the hell?
Yeah.
Like, that's not even right.
Yeah, but that's why I think it's so important to like speak up about your boundaries, communicate what you need or what you are trying to communicate to the person or the people at work or in your
Yeah.
business or in your personal life. Your kids need boundaries, your partners
Yeah.
need boundaries, like everyone in your life, you set the boundaries, right? And everything else kind of flows in those
Yeah.
boundaries. And it's staying firm with those boundaries and realizing like, okay, and your boundaries can change. With time,
Yeah.
boundaries
They
can
can.
change. Boundaries can be different. Like I was super strict with Japheth. I was very, this is how things are. This is how things will go. Like nobody can do X, Y, and Z. Now that they're a little older, things have kind of, I'm a little bit more laid back. I'm like, okay,
Yeah.
cool. Like we'll let certain things be okay with
Right.
now because they're growing, they're getting older. Things are just kind of changing.
Yeah.
So be okay with like knowing, okay, that was once my boundary. It doesn't make you a hypocrite. It doesn't
Right.
make you a fake person. It just means you're evolving and growing. And what resonated with you then maybe doesn't resonate you with you now.
Right.
And that's okay.
Yeah. I think it depends on the season that you're at.
Yeah.
Like certain boundary needs to be up. I remember a few years ago, we were saving money to buy a second home,
Yeah.
and a family member came to me and asked um, to co-sign for a car. I would gladly do it, but at that time,
Yeah.
we were saving our money and our credit to make sure that we bought a house. It's not like that she was going to take money from me,
Yeah.
but my name was going to go in another financial statement.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, sorry, baby, I can't do it. I feel so bad that I can't do it, but this is the reason why.
Yeah.
And she understood. It's like, oh, yeah, no problem.
Yeah.
If it would have been a different part of season of my life where we weren't doing that,
Yeah.
then I was like, yeah, gladly co-sign for you.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So it's like different seasons of life that you're in.
Mm-hmm.
You might have the time to go do the things that people want you to do or ask for to do because you have the
Yeah.
time. Maybe you don't have any kids.
Yeah.
Maybe your kids are
Older or
older. You know what I'm saying? Then you have the time. Like, okay,
yeah.
cool. Now I have time to spend with friends or time to go to this party, time to go do that.
Yeah.
It's just seasons and we understand that. And as I'm learning to put my boundaries, I'm also more mindful and understandable of others.
Yeah. Yeah. Because we've been there or we can see now
Or
from a
we're
different
or
perspective.
we're going through
Yeah.
those same things.
Yeah.
I remember as in my young 20s, I had zero boundaries. Because it was just me by myself. I
Yeah.
didn't have a girlfriend and a wife, kids,
Yeah.
so it was like a free for all.
Yeah.
Boundaries, nothing, zero. I even remember when I lived in my other house, in the first house that we lived at, and I was single. Like family would just come and go as they please.
Yeah.
Family would just open the door, don't
Yeah.
even knock. Like, hey,
Yeah.
Vic, come on. Even friends
Yeah.
would just come in and go like that, like they don't even knock. But then we got married and you moved in,
Yeah.
and those things would continue. It's not like they were doing anything wrong. They were
No.
so used to
Yeah.
of doing that until you brought it to my attention. I was like,
Yeah.
we need a boundary here.
Right?
Like I could be walking around naked,
Yeah.
and your family and friends just come and walk in the house.
Hmm.
But they were so used to doing that because I had no boundaries.
Right. Right.
And then now that we're family, we needed that boundary set.
Yeah.
It's not that like I wanted it. It's like
We
we
needed
needed that
it.
boundary set. We could be, you know,
Yeah.
trying to make J.A.T in the middle of the
Right.
living room, and then here comes my mom walking in the house like,
Yeah.
oops.
Hey.
you know,
I'm in my house,
yeah.
but thanks for just popping in while I'm busy,
It's not like they. It's like they didn't know the boundary until they
Yeah.
came across it.
Yes.
So then you explain it like, okay, can you guys, this
Yeah.
is going to be different now because we're a family now.
And people take it sometimes as a surprise because like
Yeah.
you said they're so used to it and it's like
Right.
wait, why did things change, and
Yeah.
they take it as like what? And then there's other times where they understand and they're like, "Oh my gosh, yeah, of course."
Right.
So I think that's the most important thing is like communicate it, let
Yeah.
them know. Like you said, seasons of life change and there's certain things that you will maybe stick to forever, that those are
Yeah.
just
Maybe.
boundaries that you're like, no, that's not okay with me. And then
Right.
there's other times where things are going to flow and change differently. So
Right.
don't be afraid to set boundaries. So that's really what this podcast episode is about. Don't be afraid to set boundaries. The
Yeah.
power of saying no is to protect your well-being and to help you be a better father, mother, business owner, professional, just a woman or man in general. Like that is what the boundaries and power of saying no is. To give you the energy, the desire, the passion that you have or that you want for your career, for your kids, for your partner, for your business. Like you have to protect your energy, you have to protect your peace because if you don't, nobody else will.
Yeah. That's clearly what it bases to.
Yeah.
Like saying no to things that are going to take your time away for your mental health,
Hmm.
for your peace, for the time that for you to spend time with the things that matter.
Yeah.
Because a lot of times saying yes takes you away, takes you to places where you don't need to be or
Yeah.
want to be.
Yeah.
So saying the power of saying no is key.
Yeah. So don't be afraid to say no. That's
Mhm.
really what this podcast episode is about, is trying to remind you that it is okay for you to say no. You are not a bad person. You are not being selfish. And if you are, then so be it. If that's what people want to paint that picture of you, that's okay. You know why you need that boundary. You know what is the meaning or the purpose behind that boundary. And it's hard for people to accept it once you start setting them. But if they love you, they value your friendship, your relationship with you, they will respect it and be open to having that conversation.
Yeah.
So, thank you for tuning in, everyone. We hope this was helpful and look forward to many more episodes. Have a great night.
Good night.
Nowadays I'm just coasting, trying to find myself, no longer worry about me, but my grandma's health. Waking up and every morning she be laying in bed, telling me she feel like shit if she ain't taking the meds. Like damn, maybe lately I've been way too stoned. My head is getting like the size of Jimmy Neutrons. All these people sleeping on me like a futon, when really all these other rappers I could poop on. Yeah, I guess every